Let's talk a little bit more about this issue. We're joined now by eThekwini Mayoral spokesperson Mluleki Mntungwa. He speaks to us on the latest. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us. Just for clarity, to get the latest figures in case there has been another report. The death toll at the moment as we speak, and do you have a number, a list of missing people, given the fact that there has been an interruption in communication connectivity?
Thank you very much, Tsepiso, and good evening to your viewers. I think first of all, let us, on behalf of the mayor, let us convey our condolences to the families of the deceased and those who were injured, and wish them a speedy recovery. Indeed, the death toll in eThekwini is standing at 301, and the search and rescue is still continuing. We are optimistic that the number will not rise. But at this stage, we want to say that our teams, our disaster management teams, are on the ground working hard to ensure that those who are still trapped as a result of these disasters are recovered. And as the municipality, we will be keeping the public informed as to the latest development with regards to the death toll and our rescue operations. Mr.
Mntungwa, I'm not sure if I heard you incorrectly or perhaps you misspoke. I heard you say 301 as opposed to the figure which we have, which is 341. Can you please confirm or correct that? And if you could also speak about the number of missing peoples.
At this stage, in eThekwini, it's 301. I think the Premier was talking about the provincial figure.
Yes, I'm also talking about the provincial figure. Do we know what the latest death toll is, or can you only provide us with figures for eThekwini?
Yes, these are the figures that I'm giving you of 301. It's for eThekwini municipality.
Okay, so you are unable to give us the provincial figures.
The provincial figures, the Premier has just confirmed them. It's 349.
Okay, 49. Okay. The number of missing people, do you have a list of that? Because we understand, because so many towers are down, that it's difficult to communicate the distress that many people find themselves in, or to even reach out for help. How are you navigating that?
Well, although I don't have a specific figure at this stage, but we have received reports from members of the community and from local councillors indicating that there are people who are still missing, and we are working around the clock to ensure that those who are missing their relatives are found.
So before we get to the rescue and recovery operations that are still underway and how you are assisting those who have been impacted, I want to deal with some of the issues outlined by the Premier. He spoke about auto ducts which have been destroyed, particularly to Durban Heights. But he also mentioned that while some of them would be attended to and the situation would be remedied over the next couple of hours or days, there's some infrastructure that will take months to fix. Why is this?
Indeed, for instance, in Otongati, Tsepiso, we have a challenge of a water treatment plant there which requires extensive repairs. So it is these extensive repairs that will result in us not being able to deliver water timelessly in those areas. But we have interim measures. We are deploying water tankers in these areas, and we are also procuring a package plant that will be able to supply water in these areas while we are fixing these challenges. I must also mention that some of the delays have been caused by the fact that some areas are not traversable because our road infrastructure has been damaged. But our engineers are on the ground fixing the roads so that our teams are able to reach those communities with water tankers as well.
Okay. The Premier also spoke about the road networks, that the congestion is being alleviated in some of the main roads, but I think he mentioned the N7 as well, saying that that still is problematic, particularly for trucks that still need to ferry aid to and from different areas. Can you speak a little bit more about the road network?
Yes, we can confirm that at this stage, 60% of our areas in eThekwini are accessible, by transport. So we have areas like Mluleki and Bayhead that are still having challenges. But we are working hard. Our engineers are on the ground to clear and repair some of the routes, including Bayhead, which is a key economic zone, of the city and the province at large.
The Premier also touched on something that I noticed us also during the press briefing there after the briefing was of interest, and is certainly of interest to me. The Premier said, as a province, you received warnings about the impending flooding. He also then said it was beyond your control to mitigate the effects. But I'm wondering, do you have early warning systems, as eThekwini as a city, but as a province, and how do those work? How do you use that to aid you?
So we do have an early warning system that is working, and we must indicate that, the floods that we experienced, in the past few days, are far worse than those we have seen in recent years. And the damage to the infrastructure has been extensive. So we do have an early warning system, and we are hopeful that had the intensity of these floods, were lesser than what we have experienced, we would have been able to respond much quicker and faster. But we are confident that with the work that we are doing currently to assist, families that are affected, as the city, we will be able to, improve also on some of the challenges that we are experiencing, with this, early warning system. It is working, it is functional, and it is monitored on a daily basis. That is why our teams, our disaster management teams, were able to respond swiftly when information came through that we might experience some challenges, particularly in low-lying areas, and in areas that are prone to flooding.
I don't mean to nitpick here. There are people who are in the midst of devastation at the moment, and without finger pointing, they would really like to understand how is it working? How are you using the urban landforms to protect them further from such devastation? Because there has obviously been criticism that it should not be as it is, whether or not the fact that we've had a natural disaster of this scale is within or beyond the city and the province's capabilities to prevent such high levels of devastation. But how is it working? And by your own admission as a province, you've said you need to scale up the work that you need to do at public works in order to prevent such flooding and devastations like you had in 1995. So are you learning the lessons?
No, indeed, so as I've indicated, that we have put systems in place. The only challenge is that, these floods were far worse than the floods that you are mentioning. But, lessons have been learned. We are going to go back to the drawing board and see, how do we respond adequately when we are confronted with such situations in future.
Okay, let's talk about tourism. The minister acknowledging that it accounts for about 10% of your GDP of the province, and still saying to tourists that please come to KwaZulu-Natal, we are able to host you. But which areas are safe, and what are you saying to those who are making their way to KwaZulu-Natal? They obviously should be preferred routes, given the fact that there has been a forecast of more heavy rains, and there are areas that are just completely inaccessible. Where are you directing tourists to, and how are you going to safeguard them?
So we want to say that eThekwini is open for business, so people must come to Durban. All our tourism sites are safe. The beachfront, the promenade is safe, and we want to assure our visitors that, there will be law enforcement officers. Our disaster management teams are always on high alert to ensure that such, incidents, of this nature do not affect or will not affect the people who will be visiting these tourism sites. So we are saying people must come to Durban. We are open for business and they are safe.
Which areas?
Well, the beachfront is safe. It's a piece, so as I've indicated, we've got a beautiful promenade there. We also have restaurants. I mean, in a township. I mean, we've got the Inanda Heritage Route. I mean, although some of the roads they still have challenges, but it is serviceable. We have, I mean, on the south, we've got beautiful beaches there. In fact, I can tell you that all our beaches, I mean, have a blue flag status, but given the challenges that you are confronting now, I mean, we want to advise visitors that it is not safe at this stage to use our beaches, but there is much more that they can be able to enjoy so that they can have a memorable Easter holiday.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Mluleki Mntungwa is the eThekwini Mayoral spokesperson. So do speak to your travel agent or authorities to ensure that you do go to the right places. And of course, due to the water shortage, it is being appealed upon tourists there to preserve water. And of course, wherever you can, lend a helping hand. This is what you're also being asked to do as many families contend with this devastation.